Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a brand new series where I interview and have interesting conversations with inspirational young people. I'm going to be sharing the career journeys and academic stories of these people that I would have wished to have heard when I was 16 or in school. The types of people that I'm going to be interviewing have really unconventional, interesting stories, and a big focus for this series that I wanted to make sure that I provided for you guys was just diverse backgrounds. I know the story that I share about myself on my YouTube channel, my experience doing an apprenticeship and an unconventional route to university, is only one story, and I'm aware that I come from only one background that you guys might not come from. So I want to share content that you guys can relate to, and I wanted to provide loads of diverse people that hopefully some of you guys will be able to resonate with, because I'm aware that for some of you I just can't be that person. So yeah, I'm really excited about this series and I hope you are too. And yeah, I just can't wait to interview some really interesting people. For my first episode, I have a lovely girl called Zaynah Din. She came from a creative vocational college, and that education led her to becoming a marketing apprentice at Facebook. She then went on to work at Instagram, then create her own advertising agency, and then most recently started working at TikTok. And this is a girl that's in her early 20s, so I just think she's incredible. Her mindset is amazing, and I loved the conversation we had. We talked all about the different influences on her career journey, whether that be the environment she was surrounded in, the people that were around her, like friends, mentors and parents. And I just think her mindset comes across really well, and I loved listening back to the conversation when I was editing it. So I really hope you enjoy it. I'm so excited to kick off this series with this episode. Leave a comment down below if you did think it was interesting, because I'd love to hear your feedback on the series. Zaynah, welcome to my channel. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. I'm just really excited for this episode because personally, we've never really properly met or had a conversation. I've followed you on social for a while, and I guess as a fellow apprentice myself, I've seen you go from Facebook to TikTok and all the stages in between. So it's been really great to see your journey. It's inspiring for me. So I hope that this episode brings value to all my viewers, and I'm sure it will. So I'm really excited to see how it goes. But I guess to start it all off, it'd be great if you could introduce yourself, I guess where you are now, anything you'd like to throw in there that you want people to know about you. Who is Zaynah? Who are we talking to today?
Sure. So I'm Zaynah, and I currently work at TikTok as a business marketing exec. And before this, I was working at Instagram as a creative strategist. And before that, I was at Facebook as a digital marketing apprentice with White Hat, which is how me and Molly know each other. And who else is Zaynah? Oh my gosh, how much is there? I also have a cupcake business / food blog that I run on Instagram, and a digital marketing agency which I started after I left Facebook. So that is Zaynah.
Great. Zaynah in a nutshell, but I'm sure we'll dive a bit deeper and find out a bit more about you. But I'd love to start, I guess, just generally, thinking about now, as of where you are now, how do you feel with the current position that you're in? How do you see your journey's gone? Like, are you satisfied with where you are now? I guess just a genuine question, honest answer.
Yeah, 100%. I'm definitely satisfied, because sometimes I'll like think back at everything that I've done, and I know I've worked super hard, so there's nothing more that I could have done, and I'm definitely satisfied with the position I'm in. Yeah, it's not where I thought I'd be like 2 or 3 years ago. This isn't where I thought I'd end up when I decided to do an apprenticeship, but it's where I am, and I'm very satisfied.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. And I think it's interesting as well with everything going on at the minute. I think you can have a plan in your head, and it's very clear that often that plan doesn't turn out the way you expect it to. But I think the curveballs are often probably where the best opportunities come about, and I guess you're kind of living proof of that. But yeah, I guess for the viewers, just to start chronologically from the beginning, did your journey start at Facebook, where you did your apprenticeship? Was there anything before that's worth noting and mentioning? But yeah, how did this journey start of where you got today?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's one I get asked a lot, is how did you find your apprenticeship, but also how did you build up a strong portfolio to get there?
Yeah.
And I think my journey in tech really started when I left the school I was at and joined a tech and media school, and I studied a vocational course. So it was equivalent to 4 A levels, but it was vocational, so it means it's more practical and it's more coursework based. There were no exams, and that was at the Global Academy. And I studied a multimedia course that covered 4 topics. There was audio, digital, visual, and business. So it was super like forward-thinking school. We didn't call our teachers Miss and Sir. We called them by their first names. The toilets were unisex. There was no uniform. And when I joined the school, it was actually brand new. So there was only 50 students. So we were basically the guinea pigs. But the work that we did, a lot of the projects that we worked on were real life advertising briefs. So some of my school work was advertising briefs with MediaCom, for example. So not only
That's
was
crazy.
it was
That's such a good experience.
it's amazing experience, and also for someone who at the time I was 15, 16, 17 years old, already building my experience in the advertising and media industry. And that's where it really began. And then in year 12, for my FMP, my final major project, I decided to set up a business. So I made a social media account, an Instagram account for ZAYNAH'S Bakes, which was a cupcake business. And it was just for a school project. But I posted this one video, and overnight it got 3,000 views. And it doesn't seem like a lot now, but at the time, I basically thought I was famous. So I woke up, I was like, Mum, Dad, I've gone viral with 3,000 views. And I started to get messages from people in my local area asking for me to make them cupcakes. And then that's when I realized it's not a real business, but I've just branded it in a way to make it look like a business with a logo and with my content. And so I thought, okay, sure, let me just start replying to these customers. And I started to get more and more orders. And that's when I realized you can build a business, you can build an empire just through social media and your mobile phone. So that was another strong part of my portfolio. And then also while I was at school, I was picking up other bits of work experience. So I was interning at different companies. I was a digital marketing intern for an accounting company. I worked with MediaCom for a while on a future creatives advertising program. And all of that basically led up to me applying and getting the job at Facebook. And from then, I've just been working on things that I'm passionate about. So I've since I left school after my GCSEs, all I've ever done is just follow where my passions are and work really hard at them. And then the opportunities sounds so cringy, but the opportunities just come to you when you're prepared.
Yeah, and I guess going back to the school like before Facebook, because I think that's a really key part, especially for younger people that really don't know what they're doing now and can't really look ahead if they don't know what they're passionate about yet.
Yeah.
And like you said, it kind of just comes back the more you do stuff. But you spoke about internships and also just like the environment you were in that school sounds like it would have really impacted you. How did you think? Was there any key moments within that school, like the people you met? Did they impact how you got internships? Was that kind of all off your own back? How did you go about that?
No, the school definitely helped loads. So when I was at school, I was given a mentor called Alana, and at first we didn't actually get along, but she's like one of my closest friends now. She's still my mentor, I'd say, and she really guided what I should do, what steps I could take, and she's amazing. And also, all of our teachers are people who used to work in the industry, so ex radio presenters, producers, people who
Okay.
used to work in TV and production. So they're teaching us with their knowledge and everything that they've learned over the past decade or however long. So
I think that's such a strong point as well. Just to off the back of that,
yeah,
personally, with my story, and if people have watched my channel before, they'll know this, that my decision to join Google was heavily influenced by a teacher that I really trusted. And she wasn't like the ordinary teacher. She'd been in marketing and she had a lot of work experience in a lot of different businesses. And you could just really tell. And I can imagine being in a school and all the teachers are like that.
yeah.
I envy you. Like, I imagine it was amazing to be
It's honestly
surrounded by.
like, if you're a young person and you're a creative and you want to get into the tech industry, it is the best place that you could be because you're surrounded by other young people who are just like you. The school doesn't even look like a school. It has 8 radio stations in it and 2 massive TV studios with green screens. So you're just in an environment where you're thriving and you're like pushed to do things that you want to do. And if that's like at lunchtime going and making a short film in the TV studio, then you can do that. I used to spend a lot of my time in the radio studio with my friends, and we would just record podcasts for fun, just for fun. And now 2 of them work in radio.
And what would you say to people listening, maybe that are even doing their GCSEs and haven't even gone on to college yet, or maybe have done their A-levels and think that they probably didn't do it right? Where did you find that, I guess, fuel to do something a bit different? Because when I look back to when I finished my GCSEs, I probably wouldn't have even looked for schools that were a little bit different like that. And I wasn't quite aware that I was interested in creative industries. But if people want to take that risk, and whether that's influenced by the school that they're at and it's a bit kind of traditional, or maybe their family or the friends that they're surrounded by, what advice would you give to people to make that jump and kind of do that independently?
Oh my gosh, you just have to take the risk. Again, this is going to sound so cringy, but I was surrounded by friends and family who are very super traditional, and I mention this a lot when I speak, but I come from a Pakistani background, so there are cultural and traditional factors that come into the higher education and career routes that you take. And it sounds super stereotypical, but a lot of the times it is, we want you to go into law or finance or medicine, because these are the careers that are seen as viable options. So it's tricky to convince the people around you, like, no, this is what I want to do. Because it sounds so bizarre. Imagine my mum, who's an immigrant, who's come from Pakistan to this country to give us a better life, and now I'm saying I want to work in social media. Like, that's so bizarre. And I understand, and you should also have empathy that your parents aren't going to understand, but you have to be selfish and just take the risk. And also, another thing is, if you're doing A-levels, you're super young, so if you take the risk and you find out it's not for you, then it's not a big deal. Like, you're still 19, 20.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's something that I always, well, I'm still only 19. It's still really young. And I think
and
I'm not even, yeah, it's crazy. So I think it's clear as well, when you've been put in a work environment, you realize quickly how different everyone's paths are, and how it kind of really doesn't matter, because once you get out of that school system and the structure of life, you're kind of just left to your own devices. And sometimes it's a scary thing and it's daunting, but it's a great thing at the same time. So yeah, I definitely agree with that 100%.
Yeah. Listen, like, school is a bubble. When you're in school, you're basically put on a conveyor belt school system. Do your GCSEs, great. Get perfect A-levels, great. Go to uni, get a degree, get a job. That's not what real life is like. And as soon as you exit and you join, like, the working environment, you realize people come from diverse backgrounds. Employers in this industry don't value a degree as much as they would experience and passion and portfolio and all these other things. Like, times are changing, but they don't teach you about that in school, because they're trying to keep you on that conveyor belt system. So you have to break the cycle.
Exactly. And how would you, I guess, moving on to the working world then, you started out at Facebook, and were you there for 18 months, was it?
Yeah, I was there for 18 months.
So I guess just a bit of an insight for the people listening, that what were kind of your roles and responsibilities there, some of the best opportunities? What did you kind of take away from that experience?
So I worked in 3 different teams while I was at Facebook, because with my apprenticeship we had a bit of freedom to move around and explore different areas. So for the first month I was working as a designer. I realised I can't design, so I moved to the digital part of my team, and I was working as a digital marketer, so very core, building and implementing digital marketing campaigns that run across EMEA, so that's Europe and Middle East, for Facebook business. So it was all B2B stuff, if you know marketing. And then my final team, I was working in the Instagram team as a creative strategist. So it was more creative. Essentially what my role was is to talk to brands and show them how to best use our platform for their campaigns. So like your PepsiCos, your Walkers, your JD Sports, etc. And how would I sum it up? It was basically the best couple years of my life, because it was so intense, but you learn so much in that time period. I met some amazing people. Some of my best friends are people that I met through Facebook and also just through different events. We were able to travel loads, which was amazing, because like many other people, I always want to travel with my work. I just didn't think I would be able to do it so early on in my career. So that was amazing. And yeah, I think the biggest thing was just being surrounded by so many incredible and smart people who were willing to teach me and help me learn.
Yeah, exactly. And I think exactly the same about my situation now. And I know that you can look up to people and you admire people when you're actually surrounded in that environment every single day. It's
Yeah.
crazy how much you can learn from people themselves and just
Yeah.
talking conversations like this. Yeah, you can just learn so much. And how much, I guess, looking forward from when you were nearing your nearing the end of your Facebook experience,
Mhm.
how do you think people impacted what you went on to do next? Is that how you got some of your opportunities, or I don't know, how did those connections benefit you after that?
So the end of my Facebook apprenticeship was actually super stressful, and it always is. Your contract is coming to an end, and you're thinking, where am I going to go next? What am I going to do? And I worked
Just quickly, sorry, was there no option for you to stay on at Facebook afterwards? Because with my Google apprenticeship, there's not.
when we got to the end of the apprenticeship program, there was me and Annie, who's the other apprentice. So there was two of us, and we basically had to we basically had to we had to request for headcount in a team for someone to hire us, because when we were hired, the recruiting team built the apprenticeship program, and so I was in the GBM team. So I didn't have GBM headcount, I had recruiting headcount, which means by the end of the 2 years I had to find headcount from a marketing team. And the lady who was managing the apprenticeship program, she actually passed away like 6 months into the program.
Wow, okay.
So it meant that there was no like
Oh my
management,
God.
or like we lost the structure, and we were also the guinea pigs, which means we didn't really know what was going to happen next. So this is what I was talking about with complications. um, there. So for me, there wasn't an option to stay on, but Annie stayed on, and she's now an engineer at Facebook.
Okay, yeah, so it's clear that with those, do you think her connections helped her as well, or do you think there's
Yeah,
other factors in that?
I think there was a bunch of factors. One of them is that the engineering team often hire interns and younger people, whereas the rest of the business is like very
Okay.
senior. So it was just tricky for me to find headcount in a team that had headcount.
Yeah. Okay. So then, I guess going back to your story, what did you end up doing after Facebook? What was the time scale sort of like as well?
So I left Facebook in mid-March, like literally before we went into lockdown. The week we went into
Ideal.
was my last week, yeah. And a couple months leading up to that, I was applying for loads of different roles at different places, and I got some offers, but there was nothing that I thought would challenge me more than Facebook and what I had learned in the past 2 months, because obviously I was looking for a step up. So when I left, a lot of the people in my team and my good colleagues suggested that I just start my own agency. And so I did, and I was freelancing for 2 months, and it was going really well. I was actually making like twice the amount of money I was making at Facebook, and,
Wow.
and I was working like half the hours. It was very much like relaxed lifestyle for 2 months. Wake up at midday, do my freelance work. It was great. And then
What sort of freelance work were you doing?
so I was basically a digital marketing consultant, so building Facebook and Instagram ads for
Okay.
different small, medium businesses, large businesses.
Okay, cool.
And then 3 months into freelancing, 3 months? Yeah, March, April, yeah, 3 months into freelancing, I got a call from my now current manager, who used to be in my team at Facebook, saying, "We have a job for you. Do you want to apply? The interview is tomorrow." And I was thinking, I'm kind of living like a really fun life right now, and this wasn't part of the plan, but I'm not going to pass up the opportunity. So I said yes, and I interviewed. I basically had like 5 interviews in the space of 5 days, and then they gave me an
Wow.
offer, and I accepted it. And the reason why I accepted it is because it just felt like the universe's timing. This is going to sound so cringy, but it just felt like it was the right move for me to make. I can freelance whenever I want to. I could quit next month and just begin freelance again if I wanted to. It's rare that an opportunity like this would come about for a team and a company that is growing so massively. TikTok is the number one most downloaded app like 8 months in a row, except for Zoom in March. and it's growing so massively, but it's a startup, so it's small internally, which means there's so much room to grow. So that was like a very serendipitous moment when I was like, okay, I mean, I'll just take this opportunity and see what happens, and now we're here.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting, your mindset around it as well. And it might be a bit of a weird question to answer from yourself because I don't know, it's talking about yourself in that way, but I'd be interested to know from your perspective, why do you think this person that is now your manager, why do you think they reached out to you and asked you to interview for the role?
Oh, well, I know why, because I asked her myself, and it's just because we work together, so she knows what I'm capable of, and my skills cover everything that they needed for that role in the team. And this is why keeping your networks tight is so important, and keeping good relationships with people that you meet, because you never know what opportunity could come down the line.
Yeah. How did you foster that relationship between the time of leaving Facebook and or whenever you kind of lost contact with this person or working with this person to when you started working with them again?
We never really lost contact. Like, I just make friends wherever I go and then keep in touch with my friends. And then when the opportunity comes, you're in the front of their mind for when there's that job opening.
Yeah. And then when you spoke about skills that you kind of had for the role, do you think was it a lot of soft skills or also like practical skills that you were capable of in terms of like digital marketing?
It was a mix of everything. So my role now is my main responsibility is to generate leads for the company. So to get people in spending money on the advertising platform. And that is basically what I did at Facebook for like 9 months. So the actual job role itself fits perfectly for what they're looking for. And then we've worked together, so that kind of helps the situation. You know how you're going to work with one another. You know you get along. Things like communication. There's a lot of different opportunities to get involved with offline activation. So I'll give you an example. We worked on a campaign with Global Fashion Foundation where we brought in students and we were working with them to design and create our merch. So
yes, I saw that on your photo. It looked sick as well.
So cool. And I love doing things like that because it's like that's the perfect career when your passions and the things you're passionate about align with your actual work. Like, that is what gives me the best energy. And so
I think as well, for me, looking at something like that, because you often think when you do mundane and boring tasks, okay, well, I have to compromise some things. It's not all going to be perfect. But then there is also a balance where you need to push yourself and go for those roles that are fun because they are out there. And I think that's something that I'm trying to figure out and navigate now, is that, okay, what's the balance between putting up with certain things that you don't like, but then also going for the roles that are just full of passion because they are out there. And sometimes you can convince yourself that they're not, but you've probably just not found them yet.
Yeah, 100%. And this is one of the biggest pros about working for a startup, is that when there are events or fun things that are happening, you can get involved. Like, you can go to cool events, you can meet influencers if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, it sounds so interesting. And was there a point, so how long have you been at TikTok now? A good couple months, few months?
Like 3, I'm just starting my 4th month.
Okay, so how's that experience been in terms of just how you felt, especially onboarding virtually? Have you felt out of your league at all? Because it must have been a scary thing, because it's kind of like your first full-time, like permanent job after an apprenticeship.
Yeah, it's weird. It's been weird because I interviewed and onboarded virtually. I've been working from home virtually this whole time. I haven't been into the office ever. I met my team once from a distance, from a safe distance.
Oh no!
And also, like, over 80% of the company have been hired during lockdown. So most of us.
Really?
Yeah. And
that's crazy. That's amazing.
It's so weird. I can't explain how weird it is. It's super intense. Working from home is tough because you end up working like twice as much than you would usually do. Probably have twice the amount of meetings. Probably don't eat most of the week, which isn't a good thing. But that's just the reality of working from home. And I'm sure you know this too, Molly. It's hard because you don't have breaks like you usually would.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's one of them things you've got to remind yourself. It'll build your character. It'll give you probably more skills than you would have had if you did join in person. But
Yeah.
I think, like you said, it's just interesting how the world works, and I'm a bit of a believer in that it all happens for a reason, and there'll be, you know, it'll kind of stand you in good stead in the future. So yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting hearing an insight into all of that. But also, one thing I did want to mention whilst I have your time here on the call that I think would be interesting to other people is you kind of alluded to it earlier, mentioned the Zaynah Bake thing, and I know that was part of the project, part of a project from school, but that actually came into something that you continue now. For people listening who either have a side hustle, I don't like to say that word though, because I think people often think that means business or kind of blog or social page. But I think as well, it can be something like a hobby, even just like playing football at the weekends. I'd love you to emphasize the benefits of doing something like that on the side. How has it built your strengths and skills? You've also kind of mentioned it, but advice to other people maybe that aren't doing that yet and why they should do it. And I think as well, I just want to put out from my personal perspective as well that it's not always as big as a task as it often looks externally. And I think it's definitely possible for everyone. And I think it's something that everyone should do. So I'd love to hear your opinion on it and how your experience has been with Zaynah.
Yeah, so I'm in two minds about this question. I have two perspectives. I'll give you the first perspective, and that is there's so many pros about having a side hustle. The first one is it allows you to continue doing things that you enjoy and hobbies in your spare time. You don't have to necessarily make money from it. So like I love cooking and I love baking, and I'll cook for content that I can then post to my feed. But in my head, I'm then giving myself time on like Saturday or Sunday. Okay, now take 2 hours to cook, film your video and post it. And I don't make money from that, but it's just for the sake of content, right? And it's allowing me to do something I enjoy. The second thing is, if you have a side hustle like baking on your portfolio, it really makes you stand out as a candidate for a potential job. And when I got the job at Facebook, I asked them, why did you hire me? And they said one of the biggest things that stood out was that you had an Instagram account for your baking, because it shows you know how to use our product and our platform, you know how to get views, etc. And then my other mindset on this question is that there's this phrase called toxic productivity. I don't know if it's a real phrase, but I speak about it sometimes because people have this mindset where they have to be a business owner, you have to have a job, you have to be working 20 hours a day and have a side hustle, and you don't. Like, not everyone has to be at that level. You might just want to have a 9 to 5 and be comfortable, and that's fine. Like, that's completely fine.
Yeah.
So
I think it's definitely all about priorities, isn't it, and what's important to you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the point we're trying to make is if you want to have a side hustle, there are huge pros to it, and you don't have to put in loads of effort in order for that side hustle to be a successful. Like, it's just nice to have something extra on the side, something more.
Yeah, definitely. I love that view of it as well, because I don't know, I think because of my position, I'm so passionate about it, but it's so important to raise that other side of it as well and remind people that I think there's the culture we have on social media now, especially with our generation, it is that you have to be moving 100 miles an hour to succeed.
Yeah.
And you should be only sleeping 3 hours a night. And there's something that I think it was Gary Vee said it, and I hate to quote him because it's like really cliche, but I just really agree with it. And it doesn't matter. It's not about when you're sleeping. It's about what you're doing whilst you're awake. Because there's this whole thing around, oh, you need to cut down your hours to sleep to get more done.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's about that at all. So yeah, I think that's really important for young people to know as well, going into the working world. And then just to kind of wrap up, I guess looking forward into the future for you, what are you currently doing now? I know it's a weird circumstance because you can't really plan and you've only just joined TikTok, but is there anything that you're doing now to prepare for your future, to build your employability skills and things like that on the side?
Yeah, I'm always preparing for my future. Like, every step that I'm doing is working towards a bigger goal. I have all my goals in front of me all the time. Like, my vision board is just up there, so I can.
Really?
Yeah, shall I? That's my vision board. It's right above my desk, so I can see all my long-term goals and all my short-term goals. And I have my short-term goals written as well. And I have like work goals, personal goals, etc. So everything I do day to day is working towards those goals. So I'll give you an example of some. One of my biggest long-term goal, and this might sound bizarre, but is to have my own restaurant eventually. So on my vision board, I have loads of pictures of food and restaurants because I'll always be working towards that, chipping away at that goal day to day, and that comes in the form of my food blog on Instagram. And then I have my work goals. Like eventually I would like to hire my own apprentices into the company. So then that's something that I'm always chipping away at slowly. Yeah, I think it doesn't matter what level you're at in your company. I'm an exec. My manager is a manager, and above her is the lead. All of us are still working towards our goal. It doesn't matter what level you're at.
Yeah,
You should
100%.
always still be building your employability.
Do you ever feel overwhelmed by all the different yes.
Yeah.
How do you manage that? Like, how do you, for me, my brain never stops. I'm always thinking about the next thing, and that's a good thing. Oh, sorry, that's me. That's a good thing and also a bad thing. But how do you, is that something that you just compromise with and you're happy to let happen, or is there a way that you manage that feeling?
I don't know. If you figure it out, let me know. I'm like, my brain is always at 100 all the time. And if I'm not doing something, I'll feel guilty for resting sometimes.
Yeah.
Which is bad. I do get overwhelmed all the time. Of course I get overwhelmed all the time. It's a lot. It's a lot. But I try to prioritize and only do work that's important and that brings me energy. I don't like to waste time on work that is pointless or doesn't have a purpose. What else? To keep myself sane as much as possible, I like to write lists so I know what I'm doing. And then I try to sleep 9 hours every day, but sometimes that doesn't happen.
Ideally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a journey, isn't it? And everyone's always hits this point. And I think being so young, and you've already been at Facebook and now at TikTok, you probably have an expectation of yourself as well, don't you? But
yeah,
like, I think it's great what you've done so far, and for your age, it's amazing. And even though, like, it's just great for me to see personally. I really hope people take away some really great stuff from this episode, because I just think you're such a great person. You do so much good stuff, and I love that you share it all online as well. Because I'll leave all your stuff below in the description, because if you're watching, you should definitely go check it out. It'll make you feel good after. So, and there's some nice cakes as well on there, make you hungry. But yeah, I guess thanks for your time today. Is there any last words from you? I don't know.
Any last words?
Famous last words.
Famous last words. Oh no.
No pressure.
I have a really good quote, but I can't even remember. Oh, I have a good quote. This
Go
is a
for
very
it.
important quote. It's kind of related to work though. The quote is something like, "Surround yourself with you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with."
That's so weird that you said that recently. Like the past few months, that has not left my head.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's been crazy the way such a statement, like I've heard it before, but I think it's the way people say it and who says it to you as well that really makes it sink in. And it's something that I'm constantly thinking about now. And I think working from home as well has made me realign my goals, priorities, like you sort of mentioned. And it's so important who you spend your time with.
So important. And this relates to like work, personal life. Like, be very particular with who you spend your time with, who your friends are. If your friends don't support you, don't be friends with them anymore. Like, I'm not friends with 80% of the people I was friends with 2 years ago, and that's okay. So at work, surround yourself with people who you want to be like. If you want loads of money, surround yourself with people with loads of money. You automatically just adapt their traits and their personalities. If you're spending time with 5 millionaires, you're going to become a millionaire. Like, it's just how it works.
I think often we can overcomplicate it and think about it so much that when you strip it all back, it's like, it's really simple. You just need to observe who you're around, and if it's not where you want to be and they're not working towards the same sort of goals, then find those people that are.
It's so simple. Humans complicate everything. There's people are always asking like, what's the secret? And there's so many self-help books. So it's like the secret to success and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
The secret is to just work hard at something you really enjoy, and success will find you. I mean, there's other factors that come into it. For example, you need access to resources and people, etc. But the core of it is so simple, and it's all about who you're surrounding yourself with and what you're consuming.
Yeah, I think that's a great note to finish on. I'm so glad you've said that as well, and I completely agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for your time today. I've really enjoyed the conversation, and I think it's going to be great. I'm really excited to upload it. So yeah, I mean, follow Zaynah's journey. I'm sure you're going to do great things at TikTok, and I can't wait to see where you go next.
Thanks, Molly.